Hi all, and welcome to the third session of Python with Yash Infotech Learning. So before we move on to the third session of this Python language, let's first revise the topics covered in the first two sessions. So in the initial sessions, we understood what are the different data types present in Python. So there are like int, float, string, sets, tuples, list, and dictionary present in Python. These are the basic data types. And now moving forward, we saw how to create a string and how to assign some value to a variable. We also saw how to uh, add those variables in a string and show them in the output. Similarly, we understood how to traverse each of the elements present in the list, and we also learned how to traverse the dictionary objects. Then we learned about the tuples. So as we realized that the tuples are immutable, you can't change the value, and even if you try to, it will give error. And then we understood what are sets. So set is nothing but a combination of unique elements. If you try to add some duplicate element, it will be straightforward rejected by the set. So as you can see here, in this nest set, we have 5 elements and one element was duplicate, hence it is rejected. Then we understood the control flow, like how to make logical decisions in Python using if, else if, and else statement. And we also learned how that indentation matters in Python. So if the indentation is not proper, you will get error. And then we learned about some of the basic functions and methods present for various data types present in Python. So you can see here that pop will remove the last element and return that as output. Insert will add a specific element at the given index, and the index starts from 0 in Python. And append will simply add that element at the end of the list. Extend is used to combine two lists. Similarly, we can also use the plus symbol here to concatenate two lists. Then we learned about the string slicing. So you can do the string slicing using split method. So if you use split, then the string will be sliced on the basis of the space character. Wherever it finds a space character, it will convert that string to a list. And similarly, if you want to like select some specific character from this string, then you can achieve that using the indexes. So indexes start from 0 to n minus 1, where n is the total length of the string. And here we can see that if we supply some argument in the split method, then based on that argument, the string will be split. We also learned about some of the other uh, methods which are used occasionally with strings. So if you want to make all the characters to capital, you can use the upper method. If you want to make all of them to lower character, you can use the lower method. Similarly, we learned about the replace method. So using this, you can replace any part of the string. And capitalize will capitalize the first letter of the string. We also learned about the loops in Python. So for example, this is the syntax of loop. Again here, just like if, that indentation matters a lot. If this is not proper, then your code will give error. Basically, this is the tab keyword. And we also learned about the range generator. So range is used to generate a sequence of numbers. So in here, when we supply a range 1, 5, then it will start from 1 and go till 4. So as you can see here, if we wrap this in a list function, then it will start from 1 to 4. And we can also use this generator in our for loop so that the list creation is not required, and memory wise and performance wise also this is a better option if you want to create some indexes based on numbers. And then we uh, understood how can we use the compact version of loop. So in that you just need to provide your operation for that variable in the range. Okay. And then we learned about the another loop statement, which is while. So in while you need to specify some condition under while, otherwise it will go into an unconditional loop and it will never end. So here we have like defined I equals to 0 and I should be less than 5. We are also incrementing it every time so that this condition is satisfied at some stage. Okay, so this is what we had covered so far in the first two sessions. In this session, let us understand about the functions and few other methods which are present in Python. So these um, uh, methods which we have used in the functions which are there with the methods are the functions which are there with the data type are usually called methods because these are tagged to this data type. So this is an object, and for this object we have a method which is capitalized. So we can create a standalone function also, and to achieve that you need to use the def keyword. So def means define. Let's say we are defining a function called myfunc, and let's say in this function we are not passing anything, and it will simply print hello. Let me add the syntax here. So this function is now created in the system. Let me get rid of this. So as you can see that this function is now created in the system, and if I call my func now, then my func will tell that this is a function which is created and there is no docstring. We will come to docstring later, but for now this tells that this is a function created in the existing module. Now if I run this part, then you can see hello is printed. So this will simply call the function, and whatever logic is there in the function will be executed. Now this is the most vanilla form of function. In this we are not supplying any parameters and neither are we returning anything. So let's move to the next part of the function. Like let's say we create a new function with the same name, but this time we supply a parameter. Let's say the parameter 1 is let's keep the parameter name as name, or let us see the simplest form of this one. Let's change this to p underscore name, and in here we are just printing the concatenation of hello and the argument supplied for this function. So if I run this function is also created, and if you want to see the output of this one, then simply you need to call this function like we did just now. But this time, instead of empty brackets, you need to supply some argument. If not supplied, then it will give error. As you can see here, it is saying that one required positional argument, p name, is not supplied. So while calling this function, which has a parameter now, unlike earlier, you need to supply one argument. Now, let us say the person using this is named John, and if I supply John here, then I will get the output as hello John. Now we don't have some spaces here, so we can correct that using after adding like a space character here. Run this. Now you can see in our output, uh, it has basically executed this logic considering this parameter. Now, this is the second form of function. The first form was in which no argument was supplied. In the second form, we have supplied one argument. Now moving to the third form of this function, where uh, you can also return some value using this function. But before that, let's say I don't want to give any value while calling this function. In that case, let us set this to some default value, and that could be done using this equals to operator. So while creating the function, you can write, you can assign any value to this variable while to this parameter while creating the function. So when this is assigned, and if no argument is given while calling the function, then it will not give any error like it did here. So let's say if I call this part again, you can see the output is hello world, but instead of no argument, if I supply John again, then I will get the output as hello John. So this is the default value which is supplied in the function itself at the time of creation. Now moving to the third type of the function, which is that function in which you can return some data type. So let's recreate this one, and let me copy this entire part, and we will modify the existing functionality. So in this one, whenever someone calls this function, we will also return some value. So let's say we are giving them the size of the string. We can, and let me create a variable here also, like len equals to, so plen will store the length of this parameter which is supplied by the user. So we are printing this in our output, and let's say that hello your name, then we have a full stop. And let's say we return this to the user also. Now if I create this function, and this got created, and let's say if I call it without any parameter, then this error has occurred. Now the cause of this error is because we are trying to combine an integer with a string. So this will give you error. To avoid such cases, you can wrap this in the string function. So a string function will convert any numerical value to a string value. Let me redefine this and read. So you can see here, this is the output of the function. So this is the logic which the function has executed. And if I run this, if we see this part, it is saying hello, the name of the parameter, and it says the size of a parameter is 5. But since we have used the return keyword also here, and we are returning the length of the parameter, it has given the output as 5. Now, if you want to store this in some variable, that is also possible. So let's say I create a variable parameter length, and I supply this to the output of this function to this parameter length. Then now this time we didn't get any output on screen, but if we check the value stored in this variable, then it is 5. because we have returned the length of the parameter which is being supplied to the function. So these are the three types of function. The first type is where we don't give any parameter. The function will just do it, completed its task without any dependency or any input or output required or sent to the external function calling this. The second part is where the second type of function is where we supply some parameter, and this parameter is then used in the function logic. And the third type of function is where uh, we can set some default value to the parameter. And the fourth type is where we return some value based on some calculations which is being done inside the function. Now let's say you are creating a function, but you want to let the future developers know about what this function will do. So what we can do, you can create a doc string. Now to create a doc string, you just need to add three quotes here, and then again three quotes here, and in this doc string you can mention what this function will do. So you can say, let's say, this function will greet the user and also return the size. So this is like a documentation which is created for this function. So if you type here my function and run it, then you can see this is the doc string. So anyone who wants to understand what this function does, they can refer this documentation which we have added using this doc string. So this is the basic part of functions which we have covered till now. Now in Python, you can combine function with list using the map generator. So let's say there's a list in which you have a name of few persons, and let's redefine our function so that now instead of printing this, we are just returning the length of the argument supplied. So let me comment out this part. And one more thing is that in Python, you can simplify the statement. So instead of writing three statements here, you can just get rid of this variable and simply supply the length here. This will make our code more readable. It will take less space, and like when you move to advanced stages, you can avoid using these line by lines variable. You can directly supply to that function return keyword the value of the method which is being used. So let us define this function again. And let's say you want to return the length of these three names which are present in the list. So to achieve that, you can use the map generator. So map generator will run this function myfunc on all of the elements which are there in the list. Now, if I compile this, if I run this, it says that this map generator is created and it is at this position, but we can't see the data yet unless we wrap this in a list function. So let me wrap this generator in a list function, and now you can see that the output is 453. 4 is coming from the first list element, which is John. Since the character length is 4 here, we are getting 4 as output. The second 5 is coming from Harry and 3 is coming from Joe. So this is used to run the function on a list of elements. This is very useful. Now, another use of this is that let's say you don't want to create a function in the memory and you want to define a function here itself. So for that, you can use the lambda expression. Now, let us try to achieve this through achieve the same functionality without creating a function. So as we learned earlier, you can get rid of any object using delete keyword. Let us delete this function. Now it is deleted, and if I try to call it again, I will get an error. Now let us try to achieve the same result using a lambda function. So in the lambda function, everything will remain same, but since we don't have such function in the memory present now, we will create a lambda function, and to do that you need to write lambda, the argument which is let's say the element which is there in the list. So I will keep it as n for name, and for each n I want to return the length of that uh, element. And let me correct this spelling mistake here. So what this will do is that it will create a generator based on this function. So this function will loop through each element present in the list, and for each element it will calculate the length and create a generator. And since we are using a list function here, all that will be converted to a list. Now if I run this part, then you can see we are achieving the same result without defining a function, and with the help of a lambda expression we can get the same result. This will help us in saving memory, and also will help us in writing less code to achieve same result. Now moving further to a filter function. So let's say we have a list, or let's take this existing list. In this list we have one even value and two odd values. Now what if we want to find out all those names which have the length of an odd value? So to achieve that, you can use the filter generator. So instead of, let me copy this part only. So we can wrap this inside a filter. What filter will do is that it will run this function for all elements of the list, and if the condition is satisfied, then it will return that value, otherwise it will not. So for this one, we want to check whether it is even or not. So if I keep it like not equals to 0, which means that if the length of the string used here, if it is divisible by 2, then it is a even word. In that case we will not be printing it, but if it is a odd uh, lettered word, then we will be printing it. Sorry. So if I run this segment, we can see again this is a memory at which this filter generator is stored. But if you want to see the output, we need to wrap it inside list function. So in this, the first string, which is John, got skipped because the length of the characters in this string is 4. And since we have used the filter expression here, uh, only those strings or only those names which had odd number of characters were passed through this filter, and those are coming in our list as a output. So this is how you can use the list and map function. The filter and map function. Now all these things are achievable through by creating a function also, but this is a compact form which could be used in your program. If you are writing lengthy codes, then this could be used to look your code smaller, take less memory, and make it more readable. So these are the basic things that we have covered today related to the Python function. Now let us revise this before wrapping up this session. So today we learned about functions, and in function there are three types of function. One is where you don't supply any parameter. The second is one in which you supply some parameter, and the third one is in which you supply some parameter and like keep it as a default. And the third type is where you return some value as output. Now, this function could also be executed on each of the list elements with the help of map uh, functionality. So using map, you can execute this function on each of the list elements. Similarly, like map, we have a filter function also. Filter will check whether the function is satisfied for the given elements on the list. If it is satisfied, then the output will be printed. Otherwise, you won't get any output for that list element. So that's all for today. Let's meet on the next session of Python. Thank you.